Well, friends, it does seem as though Donald Trump's military dictatorship style parade was a giant flop. Reportedly, only about 10,000 people showed up. You know how he gets about his crowd sizes, and yet he's the one that makes everything about size. Anyway, it's pretty much exactly what we could have hoped for. I think the flyover was canceled for weather. You're welcome. Uh, the parade just really was sort of a flop. You're trying to make it look all American powerful, but you can't even get enough people out on the streets to watch it go by. Yikes. Meanwhile, reports are that about 11 million Americans came out countrywide to protest for No King's Day. Y'all, this is a very, very good sign, right? Little military show of force was wonky. And I think everyone now understands that, like, we have 2 million people in the Department of Defense, including civilians. 11 million Americans came out to protest. We have the numbers. I'll remind you, this protest was for the Army's 250th birthday, not Donald Trump's. And yet, in D.C., there was a very big effort that was made to make sure there were... There were efforts to make sure that there were protests in basically every neighborhood so that nobody would show up to the parade. And it was great. We were out protesting in University Park, Maryland. And even people that were not protesting, I mean, every car that drove by was honking. People were filming. Everyone was supporting. My therapist sent me video from Oklahoma and counties where everyone voted for Trump. And there were huge protests going on all over the country, red states and blue states. So when I remind you all that we, the people, get to decide who rules us, let's not forget that. It was mentioned by a lot of y'all that the marching looked really, really sloppy. And I would say two things. This was thrown together in a haphazard way. These things are usually trained for. It's called drill and ceremony. And that is usually done months and months and months in advance so that soldiers look dress right, dress perfect, and all the moves are together at the same time. This is the one thing that soldiers can do to push back, right? So when we saw Donald Trump speaking at Fort Bragg, obviously those soldiers were cherry picked, and we could tell because they were all looked like straight white men. But when a unit is going to do a parade, that's much more difficult. You're going to get voluntold to participate because the whole unit has to participate. And I remind you, there's not one unit in the active duty Army that has everyone is from the same political party. That's not how it works. That's why they move us around the country so much. So while individual soldiers not have been able to choose whether they were going to participate or not, there is one way that a soldier can push back from this formation, and that is to look sloppy while you're doing it, right? To not be in step with people, to just sort of be slouchy. I saw a lot of slouching. These things are not fun, by the way, right? You're standing in line and waiting for hours and hours and hours and hours. So nobody is enjoying themselves here. And they made it very obvious, I think, which is great. There's a part where the troops walk by the president and everyone is you're supposed to keep marching perfectly in sync. You're supposed to eyes right to the commander-in-chief, and then the person at the top salutes. But apparently it was very haphazardly done as well. So I do feel like our military was out here showing the tyrant what they think of him, which is mostly not supportive. And I'm so proud of Americans for just not really turning up. I'm Daniella. I study cults and tyrants and bad guys. It's a wild time to be doing this work right now. I wrote a book called Uncultured, which is critically acclaimed, currently a bestseller on Amazon, and you can get copies attached here if you like signed copies. You can also listen to it on Spotify Premium or anywhere you get your audios. It's about growing up in one of the world's most extreme cults and then going into the cult of U.S. Army. Have a day. Happy birthday, Mr. President. I'm so sorry it rained on your parade.